today because I
I
know
don't know
you are
if it's from
powerful
my
women,
end, but
and
it's
I know
cracking badly. Can you hear
today's
me?
discussion is going to be very, very loaded because I know everyone who joined this call today um, knows the onion of being a woman entrepreneur. So today it's not just about another conversation, one of those conversations. So today we're going to be having a very necessary conversation, and we're marking World Happiness Day. Yes, I know it's very strange because I know most people don't even know days like this exist. But here we are today celebrating that, and we're going to be having a conversation around that. So we often hear about joy, fulfillment, and well-being as abstract ideas. It talks about like things that feels good, but sometimes seems distant, especially in our current reality. Like a lot of things is currently happening, So especially when it comes to building businesses, managing teams, sustaining growth, and carrying the weight of leadership as women entrepreneurs. So today we're going to be talking about all of these things, how we survive, how we keep being, and how we keep staying happy, even
There's a lot of noise from somebody's background.
Can we all hear the background noise? Can we hear the background noise? Am I being heard? Am I being heard?
Yeah, we can see you,
Am I
but
being
the
heard?
I think if we're not speaking, there's actually something that looks like a microphone that you can mute. So your environment does not interfere with the activities.
Please just confirm, Dr. Nisi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
better now.
Um, Ambassador, if you can mute it.
Barcelona Miriam, yes, please. Okay, thank you. I think she has muted. Okay, like I was saying, can you all hear me, please? Am I audible enough? Okay. All right, so today
Yes.
we're going to be talking about World Happiness Day and what it means to women entrepreneurs, how we survive, how we cope, and still remain and stay happy in our different businesses, in our different life endeavors. So happiness is not just is not separate from economic empowerment. It is deeply tied together. For women like you who are already established entrepreneurs, builders, and visionaries, economic empowerment is more than income. It is more like access. It is influence. It is the ability to make choices without restrictions, and it is the power to shape not just your life but the lives of others. And yet, even with success, many women still find themselves asking, why does this feel why doesn't this feel enough? Where is the balance between achievement and fulfillment? There are lots of questions like that that go through the minds of lots of women entrepreneurs. So today we're going to be unpacking that in this interaction. So we're going to be exploring how wealth creation, financial independence, and inclusive growth don't just transform bank accounts, but also can transform happiness, identity, and legacy. So, because the true happiness is not just about what you earn, Trust me, you can earn in millions of dollars, but at the end of the day, you look at your inwardly, you look at yourself inwardly, and you find out that, wow, I'm really not happy. So it's about what, it's not really about what you earn. It's about what your earning power allows you to become. You know, so whether you're scaling your business, redefining success, or seeking deeper fulfillment beyond your achievements, this conversation is for you. You know. So right now we're going to talk about happiness, not as luxury, but as a right, and also we're going to explore how we can empower women to find happiness. Okay, so in this conversation today, we have four panelists, right? So I'm going to be throwing some key questions to every one of you. You know, I want to get your idea on what, mostly your thoughts on what happiness is all about. Okay, so right now I'm going to be starting with Dr. Edu, right? So I have a question for you right now. So the United Nations recognizes happiness as a fundamental human right. You know, so right now I'd like you to tell us, what does happiness truly mean in the context of economic empowerment? You know, especially for women. So I'd like to hear your view, Dr. Adu. I'm going to yield the mic to you right now so you can tell us in your own perspective what you feel happiness is in relation to women economic empowerment.
All right. Thank you very much, Ndufreke. And I'm excited to be at this discussion with notable women that you have right um, on this panel. So the first thing I think is to understand what happiness is. What is happiness? Because if you don't understand the intricacies or the specifics around happiness, you won't be able to tie it to economic empowerment or look at the relationship between happiness and economic empowerment. So I would just say in summary, happiness is about being free to choose your own life. It's about being free to do what you desire to do. The purpose for which you have been created, you are able to harness it, you're able to use it. And happiness is psychological. You could have all the resources in the world and you're not happy. So it is about positive emotions, it's about engagement, it's about relationships, it's about having meaning and accomplishment. So it's highly psychological, but it hovers around this. And then let's also look at economic empowerment. Um, According to EG Global, I will just quote them. They say economic
Okay.
empowerment is the process of equipping individuals, particularly women and marginalized groups, with the tools, resources, and agency needed to achieve financial independence, access to opportunities, and also make strategic life choices. It involves shifting from passive aid to active participation through education, financial inclusion, and entrepreneurship, reducing poverty and enabling sustainable development. So we see how broad economic empowerment is. It's about looking at the life of those that have not had the privilege, those that have had greatly, moving them, equipping them is a process. It's not just one off, it's a process. Equipping them, moving them,
Yes.
and giving them the tools and all the resources that they need to think freely, to be financially independent. So now, back to the question. Um, what does happiness truly mean in the context of economic empowerment? Now, if you have a woman, let's use the woman now in this context because
Okay.
it's about individuals or groups. You cannot talk about economic empowerment if the group has not been marginalized historically, if there has been no historical inequality. Yeah,
Please,
you
can
can
we be
mute, it
mindful
will
of our
help.
mic? Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Just go
so
ahead, ma'am.
if there has been no inequality over the years, if there has
Yes.
been no marginalization, you can really talk about economic empowerment. So now, if you want to talk about happiness, how they relate, so what does happiness truly mean in the context of economic empowerment? Without empowering the marginalized set, now using women here as in the context, without giving them the freedom to be financially independent,
Yes.
without enabling them access opportunities, without enabling them make strategic life choices, then happiness cannot be achieved. Remember, we said happiness is about having the freedom to choose your own life, what you want for yourself, having been guided, what your purpose is in life, having the freedom to be able to work that purpose, to be able to feel that self worth. If you don't empower the women, if you don't give the tools, if you don't give the resources, if you don't give them what it takes for them to achieve financial independence, for them to be able to make strategic life choices. Because if you have somebody, like I watched a video during the International Women's Day celebration, where a boy and three
Yeah.
girls were given
Okay.
some tasks to do, and whenever the dice is tossed, then the balloon that has the dice is tossed, and then the color um, emerges, and whoever has the color pops
Yes.
their balloon, and the balloon, whoever pops their balloon at the end of the day is the winner.
Went.
Now the dice
Yeah.
was tossed, and many of the women didn't have a choice to pop their balloons themselves, but the man was kind enough to pop the balloons, and he kept popping the balloons until the balloons were all popped. So the women won the activity, and then they were
Yes.
giving gifts. And
Yes.
after being given these gifts, the gifts were now given back. They felt indebted to the man, so they gave the
Wow.
gifts back to the boy because he helped them to pop the balloons. And it's rang a message in my head. And I told I had sent a comment to say, is it possible that these women are given the opportunity to pop the balloons themselves? That is what creates that happiness. That you're
Happiness.
able to walk your
Make
own
your own
path and
decision. Yes.
make your own impact, make your own
Yeah.
decisions. That is what creates that inner joy. You might, that's happiness, because happiness is about deep joy,
Yes.
deep seated joy. You might have joy for a moment and you're like, oh, I'm joyful that this thing happened, but happiness is not achieved. Over time, you sit down and you wonder, what value has my life created? Was I living because somebody was giving me aid to live, or I was living because I had something to contribute? I had a purpose,
Wow.
and so I was living that purpose. I was walking that path. That is what gives the inner joy, the deep joy that results to happiness. That is what happiness,
That's
stands for. So there is a
yeah.
direct relationship.
Between
High increase
happiness.
in, yes, increase in economic empowerment brings about increase
Yeah.
in happiness. There is a direct
Happiness. Okay.
relationship between economic empowerment and happiness. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Adrian. So I want today's session to be a very interactive one. So if you also have any contradicting or maybe any comments you'd like to add to whatever any speaker says today, you can also let us know on the comment section so that we can give you the room to speak on the issue. Okay. So thank you so much once again, Dr. Edu. So right now I'm going to move over to Dr. Mimuna. So I'll be showing a question to her as well to get her insights on what she thinks about the relationship between happiness and GDP. So, most of the times we often measure growth in numbers. Trust me, growth is mostly measured in numbers. GDP, income levels. But then again, how can we begin to measure growth in terms of happiness and the quality of life? So over to you, Dr. Mimuna. Okay, ma, I think you're muted.
Thank you, everyone. For good day, everyone. Thank you for having me on this conversation. My name is Dr. Memuna Abdullahi Habib. I'm the chairperson, She Farmers FCT and Kano. And economic growth has traditionally been measured through indicators such as the GDP and income levels or national productivity. While these indicators are important, they do not also always reflect the real experiences of people. While these indicators are, a country can show economic growth while citizens still struggle with poverty stress, inequality, or lack of opportunity. To truly measure growth in terms of happiness and quality of life, we need to adopt people-oriented indicators. First is well-being indicators.
Okay.
Be included in development planning. These include access to quality health care. People go to the hospital. I remember I wanted my daughter to live in Nigeria badly. I tried to get her a job in one of the government hospitals. But she sat me down one day and said, we don't have hospitals. If I work in the hospital and I can see cases that I can handle, but the equipment are not there, the drugs are not there.
Yeah.
Even the nurses, they come to work when they like, and most of them are half-baked. They can buy certificates and come and work as nurses. They help to kill the patients. So with that, I had to let her go. She now lives in Canada where she's happy. So that is a part of happiness for a woman especially. When you are happy, your home is happy, everybody around you is happy, your community is happy. So where she is now, the equipment are there, she treats people, and she sees that people are well, and she is happy. And education. When you have where your children can go to and have good education and it's affordable. Yes, we have seen in some states, especially in the northern part of the country, there are almost all of them in the schools in
Yeah.
the northwest are free. But still, people don't go there because when they go there, they are not happy being there. There are no chairs, there are no tables for them to study. How can they be happy even when there is education? So we need a proper education with good teachers, with good everything that is needed to be in school to study. When we went to school, everything was there.
Infrastructures. Yes.
We went to free schools with all the amenities available there. Safety. You need to be safe wherever you are. You will be happy. But when you are not safe, you'll be thinking, there will be bomb today, there will be insurgency tomorrow, somebody will break into your house, want to kill you or want to take part of your property. Once there's no safety, there's no happiness. Social inclusion. Most of these things they do now in government, even when the international organizations come in, you see very few people, very few women, most of them are men there attending the whatever training or whatever it's being done. And then environmental sustainability and mental health. I remember some times ago, last year, when I had a training for sheep farmers FCT Gwagwalada, we decided to call a mental health lady to come and talk to the women. Yes. And we were so shocked and surprised that more than 50% of these women are not happy. They have something they are carrying in their minds that is not making them happy. They are very sad. And we promised from that day that any training we'll call somebody to come and talk on mental health. Because some of them got up and when they were talking, they were crying. When they were talking they were crying. It's not only to empower them, but you have to touch their lives in so many ways. You have to talk to them, to bring them out of wherever. Some of them are depressed. They don't even know that they are depressed. So we have
They are depressed.
Yes, we have to change our strategy of training. Once we train, we bring in a mental health person to talk to them, and then we pick those that we can pick and see if we can send them to see psychologists. And another
Professional,
problem,
yes.
Another problem we encountered is that The good psychologists, they are booked 3 6 months. So
Yes, and they are
so
very expensive as well.
and they're very expensive. So we just finished CSW 70 now, and I've met
Yes.
wonderful people who are
Mm,
ready to help these people who are depressed out of their depression. They are ready to provide a lot of things for us to work with so that we can help these women. And then
thank
when people feel secure, healthy, and hopeful about the future, that reflects real development. Second, community empowerment should be measured. When individuals, especially women and youths, have access to economic opportunities, decision-making power, and financial independence, it increases their sense of dignity and purpose. These social outcomes are powerful indicators of progress. I met a woman in this year. I didn't go to New York, so everything was virtual. I even presented my paper virtually. So I met a woman who is who is championing the cause of widows in
Okay.
Africa. In fact,
Mm,
it's a pan African something, and she told me that she wanted to have like a policy for widows in Nigeria, and
okay.
she went through a member of the House of Assembly that she sponsored. To her surprise, no woman, no widow was called to contribute to anything in
Anything.
that document. To her surprise, the document was sent to her signed by the president. She
Wow.
didn't know when there was a first sitting, second sitting in the House of Assembly or the Senate, nothing. She just saw a document that somebody
That was
just signed
already signed.
in his room, in his house, and developed and submitted,
Sign
and
it
it
off.
was signed. Yes. So the third, social cohesion and inclusion are essential indicators. Societies where people feel valued, respected, and included, regardless of gender, background, or economic status, tend to have higher levels of happiness and stability. Globally, some countries now use broader measures such as happiness index, which evaluates factors like this life satisfaction, social support, freedom, generosity, and trust in institutions. These types of frameworks remind us that development is not only about how much wealth a nation produces, but also how well its people live. Ultimately, the economic growth is meaningful only when it improves people's lives, strengthens communities, and creates opportunities for everyone to strive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, from what the two speakers have said, Dr. Mimuna and Dr. Edu, it shows that equality plays a very huge role in happiness in women entrepreneurs. I love the part where you stated about the mental health, because trust me, in this part of the world, it's just, I think, just maybe roughly 20% of the women entrepreneurs that know that they even need to have a psychological evaluation or a mental evaluation, because currently we have a lot of people walking about this country and all over the world that don't even know their current mental state. They don't even know they are sad, they don't know they are depressed, they're just moving
Yes.
around, they think it's just a normal thing. And that's really deter happiness. And when you're not happy, when you're unhappy, you are not productive.
Yeah.
When you're unhappy, you cannot even do carry out some necessary activity. You're not even thinking in the right frame of mind. So thank you so much, Dr. Memuna, and also thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Edu. Right now we're going to move to Dr. Nise. In the Nigeria context, so I would like you to answer this. What are the biggest barriers you think are preventing women from fully participating in economic growth? And how does this barrier affect their overall societal happiness? Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you, Diferke, and every wonderful woman that is seated here. I'd like to begin by saying that if happiness is a human right, then exclusion from economic opportunity is a denial of that right, especially for
Mm,
women. So being used to, I like to look at this question from exclusion and unhappiness. Most times when you look at women's involvement, there are certain things that limit the woman. So we have structural barrier, we have educational barrier. So as much as we look at these things, sometimes we are in denial of the fact that these things exist. They do. I like to tell us just a story. I visited a home. I teach children, so I visited a home, and
Okay.
in that home they had three girls and a boy. So I went into the room of the children and I sat down on a bed. And the next thing I heard the girls say, "Please stand up from that bed." And I said, "Why?" They said nobody sits on their brother's bed. Their brother is 10 years old. I mean, 10 years old.
Yes.
So
Oh.
nobody sits, especially females can't sit on the bed. So you imagine those children growing with such a psychological mix around their brain. So it just tells them that, see, there's nothing in here for you. So structural exclusion actually limits, the formal sector from helping women. Most times women find it hard to have access to funding, access to better structure, because we have been relegated, and it is believed that the brain of the woman can't really think so much. It doesn't have depth. So even some of us have accepted that reality. So you go to school with the male folks, most times it's as though even when you are so good, you tend to put some
Find a way
limitation
to
to how good
regulate
and how
you.
far you should go. So it's like you're even the one telling yourself, say, "Oh, no, 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 we can't do this one so much." So many women operate in informal sector with limited access. So you can imagine if they have so much access and they're operating in a formal setting, see how far they can go. So I also feel that policies in Nigeria, it's not like we don't have good policies. We have good policies that covers the woman. But the challenge we have is the implementation of the policies. Implementation of the policies. So you ask yourself, what causes inequality? What causes unfairness at the workplace? So a woman does jobs that she's not paid for at the home front because she's also trying to do jobs that she wants to be paid for, and then she comes, it's as though she's still struggling to find a place. So educationally women are struggling, so we have educational barrier. Structurally the women are struggling because they can't have access to opportunities, to funding, to structure around the organization. So they are struggling. Then you also have the policy barrier because policies are not implemented in such a way that it is fair to all.
Favor
So it
women.
affects productivity, it affects wellness. Happiness is beyond income. Happiness is beyond
Mm.
income. Happiness is your time. Happiness is your dignity. Happiness is balance. So you also find out that another barrier we have is social cultural. Our cultural setting actually gives placement, to the male folks and relegates the woman to the background. So there's certain things that are forbidden, so much forbidden. Sorry, I like to tell stories when I talk. I went somewhere and the canopy was empty, chairs were empty, and women were standing. So I was so tired, so I wanted to sit down on the chair. I'm not giving you history. I'm telling you stories I was involved in. And then I tried to sit down and I heard the men shouted, "No, women are not supposed to come under this canopy." I was like, what? In this time and
What?
age? Some of the women standing were pregnant, tired, but they can't sit down. Not because there were no empty chairs, because culture, tradition forbids them to sit down. So, like I said, we have these social cultural barriers. Gender norms still restrict leadership and decision making for women. When a woman's voice is limited, her economic potentials are also limited. That's one thing we
Yeah.
don't understand. The truth is, I feel that Africa would have gone far if only they had carried the female folks along on
Long
same
before
pedestal.
now.
We would have gone far, but because the woman was relegated, our intelligence, our intellectual abilities were relegated. Only the men were going with theirs, and theirs didn't take us so far. See where we are, still lagging behind. So it's very important for us to have the woman's voice because her voice carries potentials, and so is her ability to express and experience fulfillment. When a woman is happy, she will go a long way. Men who do well are men whose wives are happy. So happiness is contagious and has a way of helping us. Thank you.
Oh wow, that was a wonderful one. Thank you so much, Dr. Nisi. That was really awesome. I mean, from the structural barriers, a lot of women today face that a lot. We have this things are holding her back. So right now, I'm just going to move to Ambassador Miriam because just like Dr. Nisi had said, policy is a very, very strategic way in which we can elevate the happiness of women. Policies that are being made in Nigeria or the world as a whole, is it favorable to women? And if not, would like to hear from you, Ambassador Miriam. How can policymakers and organization ensure that economic growth is truly inclusive and not just beneficial to selected few? You know, you've been in the policy space, and I believe you will be in a better position to respond to this question. Okay, over to you, Ambassador Miriam.
Okay. Well done. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm
Good
sorry,
afternoon, ma'am.
unfortunately, I'm just using the mic, not using the video, because
That's fine.
I'm in a remote, presently I'm in a remote area. I'm following
Okay.
up in a human rights case. This is the reason why, because it is very important for me to be at this conversation. This is the reason why I'm joining here. But if not, so I'm in the fields following up with the human rights case
Okay.
presently.
That's fine, ma'am. Please continue.
Thank you for yes, thank you so much for this question. I tried to earlier to respond to based on what the definition of happy being
Happiness.
happy is, but what the happiness is. But maybe looking at the question, the policy makers and the organizations, ensuring that economic growth truly inclusive requires a shifting from gross first to maybe equity centered economic design. Like she said earlier, maybe most of our policies in Nigeria are not favorable for us, especially we, the women that are into. So we are not thinking just about people that have a privilege to sit in some certain tables, but we are looking at the women that are there, maybe at the grassroots, women that are to the rural communities, women that are no opportunity to have a kind of discussion or interaction to have an access to policy makers. So
Yeah.
we have maybe where inclusion is built to maybe policies, market and maybe institutions. Maybe it's outside maybe gender responsive. Like you said, maybe gender responsive but is something to imagine that many of civil society organizations, even the government at any level, the legislative, now they
Yeah.
are maybe driving in another way, thinking to be anything that has to be gender responsive. Gender responsive have to cover for women, children, elderly person, and the youth as well, including people with the special needs. So looking at this, maybe like she said, removal of structural barriers to participation of women. So this is the reason why I can give reference to maybe affirmative action. It's a reforms that will maybe give an woman opportunity to have an access to this, which will bring a lot of happiness to so many women out there in not in Nigeria, maybe around the world. Because when we look at the number of women that are into economic businesses that we are having in Nigeria is something that when we look at back and now current situation to appreciate ourselves. Definitely the effort we are making at ourselves individual as in women economy that has a businesses, maybe from the civil society organization, from the international donors, and the like do take action that providing the skills because skills matters. Many women have a maybe capital to invest, but skills and knowledge matters where they are having not necessarily being having a degree holder or master's or PhD, but running a business, managing your own resources, no matter how little, you need to have a skills. And now we are in digital era, we need to have a digital skills to be able to maybe secure most of the opportunities. So
Okay.
when I look and I look maybe discrimination, I look at the many women, like I can give rebel, especially those that are into construction,
Yes.
infrastructures. When they have an people, yes, people maybe especially even the government, the private sector didn't recognize their efforts of being coming out to showcase their potentials, maybe adding value to that sector. They think they discriminate them being a woman. So this is something that maybe from the policy perception as identified as a gap. A lot of many organizations, like my organization, do take action. Women, right from the grassroots, are doing their own efforts, are being doing so much to see most of our policies have been reviewed and maybe link up mainstreaming to the existing structures to ensure it is gender responsive, so that it will help maybe inviting whatever we are demanding for. And the secondly, I look at the maybe investing in rural infrastructures. Most of our
Okay.
budgets, when you look at the maybe the national budget, the state budget, the local government budget, they didn't consider most of the women initiatives that at the grassroots level. The only people that have an opportunity to access is only those that have an opportunity, maybe access like we that have an access to policy makers, or that we can
Yeah.
be able to review, have an a digital access to digital tools that we can able to use to access or to find information. So why other women that are at the grassroots level, which are doing so much? Even when we are taking for these reformations of laws and policies, it limited them. But when there is an inclusion in it, if it is inclusive, so definitely it will reflect. We would have more socially and peaceful society. And I look at the also maybe access to like I said, access to productive maybe resources, like maybe affordable
Yes.
credit and grants. Most of the
Yeah.
grant that is available, maybe either from the private sector, Kokma government sector. Women that maybe doing in job mifiti or doing kuli kuli cannot be able to maybe access that grant unless if she has
Yeah.
a maybe a little skills that will be able to help her. Having an Android phone, if she don't have an Android phone, I don't think if she will be able to. So how can we be able to
Access document.
simplify it based on the context?
Yes.
Based on the
Yeah.
context of each and every geopolitical zone in Nigeria. And sometimes not looking at the maybe all the African countries.
Yeah.
And also maybe strengthening financial inclusion through mobile community. So Alhamdulillah, with
Yeah.
this initiative for maybe of mobile banking, POS, money point and other things, women have an access, they will be able to maybe secure. I can give a reference to project under federal government that they give a loan of 50,300 to market women, farmer women. So now because people go through the communities using the POS and other mobile banking, they have an access to have an account so that they'll be able to access such kind of small grant from the federal government. And when we look at the maybe public procurement as well, maybe as a another Okuma as a maybe initiative that we can back up all demand or request for inclusion to make it more inclusive. Maybe
Okay.
redistribution, setting up with retirement process for women youth and locally owned business. Now we are talking about 35% maybe award contract should be allocated to women on or women-led business. But do
Yeah.
we refer to locally women-owned business like women that pride akara, women that sell kuli kuli at the community, women that do cynthia, women that do fan hand fan and other things. So we have to look at all these
Okay.
things. Maybe strengthening social protection system, because the social protection system that we have now in Nigeria, very few before you get the people that have an access that their name are in social register and they are receiving the packet, it's very difficult. Only very few people. When they set it for a year or 10 months, before you know itself, some people will just receive it once, maybe to through maybe policy advocacy and the reformation of rules and frameworks in Nigeria will be able to maybe change this narrative and make it more
Thank you
inclusive.
so
The
much.
institutionalizing of data transparency and accountability. This matters
Yes.
really because in some cases we don't have a maybe disaggregated data that will say this is for women, this is for age, kokuma based on gender, location, and disability that will serve as
Yeah.
a tool that we can able to maybe advocate or maybe give a justification based on existing okuma new image emerging issues that we are demanding for maybe reformation. And
Thank
another thing
you.
maybe
Thank
promoting
you.
inclusive governance and participation. When there is an maybe inclusion or women, now we are talking about me reservation of special seats for women.
Yes.
When we look at it, how many women are capable and ready to participate or to be at the table? Many women that has the skill to be at the, like I can give you example. Will you come out and contest at the for the 2027 election by the debate? Can you come out? So if you didn't come out, sometimes there is an opportunity for us, but we didn't demand it, or kuma we didn't come out. Let's try
Yes.
and see what the outcome will be. And also, I look at the maybe marginalized groups should be included in the leadership, either by election or by the appointed. There is a position that we can be appointed, but also
Yes.
maybe especially for the women, let's be elected, not appointed. Let's be at the top. Even we are going to be appointed, let's give us a maybe like the key priority ministerial.
Yes. Okay,
So
thank
I
you
think
so much,
this I think
Ambassador.
this much of our
Wow,
conversation.
that was really deep. You are really passionate about this. I can see that. Thank you. So definitely, we need some policy evaluations, and we need to push for more policies to reflect women's inclusion, because we've seen from what you've said so far that policy inclusion of women is really vital to their happiness as women entrepreneurs. So thank you so much, Ambassador Miriam. So we're running out of time right now, so I'm just going to give room for the last set of questions. So just be taking it in 1 minute. I'd like you to all to give your ideas on this questions I'll be sending your way. So I'll move back to you, Madam Dr. Adu Hansen. So the question here is, in your experience as a women entrepreneur, how does inclusive economic growth directly impact the daily happiness and well-being of individuals and family? I know we've talked about this. I just want in just few words and few sentences, how do you think inclusive economic growth directly impacts the everyday happiness and well-being of individuals and family?
As economists, when we talk about happiness, or when we talk about improved standard of living, you don't just hold it on economic growth. You have to look beyond economic growth, and that is what really brings about happiness. Happiness in enjoying the benefits of economic growth. And so that is in economic development. So it is continuous, sustained economic growth, you know, and that
Yes.
talks about the inclusive economic growth. When it is sustained over time, that results to structural changes, that results to technological advancement. And Ambassador talked about infrastructure. If you have economic growth without infrastructure being impacted positively, then there'll be no happiness. People will drive on the roads with their cars, bad roads. You could have increase in production. You have your GDP increasing, but you don't have amenities, infrastructural amenities. Then you haven't achieved anything really. You have only enriched a particular group of people. But now, when you talk about economic development, that is now where you talk about inclusive growth, because at this point now there is job creation, there is financial security, there is social mobility, there is the increased per capita income. And even the UN recognizes that happiness to do with even increased income. Now, this is increased families to be able to have purchasing power to purchase their basic needs. That is where economic development now stands in, and that's where you have inclusive economic growth. So it is very, very important. There is a direct impact of inclusive economic growth to everyday happiness. Without the basic amenities, without improved standard of living, families will not be able to meet their basic needs, and there will be no happiness. So there is that strong need to
Thank
evolve
you.
beyond economic growth to economic development. All right. for want of time, I can see you're
Thank
trying
you.
to stop.
Thank you so much. We're running out of time. I just want everyone to just give a feedback in next, say, 2 minutes, 1 minute max, so we can move on. So I'm going to move to
Thank you.
Dr. Mimuna right now. So your question here is women's economic empowerment is set to create ripple effects. Can you share real life experiences, real life examples of how empowering one woman has transformed a household or community? We've always heard that yes, yes, when you empower one woman, you empower the nation. So I want you to give an instance of maybe something you've experienced. Maybe you could use yourself as a case study. What happens when one woman is being empowered, and how this leads to the ripple effect of making a community a better and a happier one. Over to you, Madam
Yeah, so I
Memuna.
want to give you a life story. Um, he was
Okay.
traveling and he saw a woman at a petrol station selling something on her head. He called her and asked her how much is her capital, and she said 1,700. So he gave her 20,000. He said, add to your capital. After 6 months, the woman went back to the petrol station and was asking the person who introduced her to that man how she can get in touch with that man. So after some time, the man came by and he quickly called the lady to come. Said the lady has been looking for him. So he asked, have you finished? Because most of the time you give these women money to empower them, they use it in another way. So he said, why are you looking for me? She said, no, I just want to tell you thank you. He said, how far about this money? He said, she said, now I have 400,000 in my account. My family is feeding very well. My children are going to school. If they are sick, I've been able to take them to the, most of the time they don't go to the hospital. I took them to the pharmacy, or they call it chemists. And then I am even showing other women, she's mentoring other women on how to go about making ends meet. So he said, how did you save to get this 400,000? She said, when you gave me that 20,000, I kept that thing I was selling. I was no more moving from one place to another with a capital of 1,007. But I moved from one market day to another. When I buy crops or whatever I see, or chicken or goat from this market this today, I go to another market tomorrow and sell it. And that's how I was moving from one market day to another. And that's how I made my 400,000. That's a story.
Wow.
Another
That's
one, another
awesome.
one, another one was that recently, very recently, Federal Minister of Agriculture came into Kano to empower women on because there was a report that there was tomato and sugarcane pests ravaging all these crops in Kano. So they came in and gave some inputs, and she farmers was called. I didn't know that they were going to give any inputs. She farmers was called because I was a retired director there. I was called and I went with about 44 she farmer members from Kano. And they gave us a lot of things because there were four groups. And ours, what they gave us was more than any other person's own because of my rapport with all the permanent secretary, the minister of state, the director in charge of everybody. So, the previous night, they told us that robbers went to that store, they wanted to steal all these things. So the people were just asking us, pack to my warehouse. My thinking is that I will use those things to train these women, to change their lives. So, and to my surprise, journalists started calling me. A lot of people were calling me. I said, what happened? They said, the women said you refused to give them what the minister gave to them. You
Can you
took it to
imagine?
your warehouse. So I was surprised. I said, no, we are going to use it for training. So I started asking questions. They said the other groups, somebody came in with a truck and was
Wow.
buying this these things from the other women in the other groups for 12,000 naira. Even the boot in the market is 15,000 naira. So why should you sell a boot, a PPE, eye goggle, face masks, nose masks, and knapsack, this sprayer, small sprayer, for 12,000 naira? I said we don't do that. I said we are going to use that and train women in the field, because these women, their problem is that they don't have land. Their problem, they can't have access to any land. I approached BUK where I lecture in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, and they gave us 30 hectares of land, which we are going to distribute on the 30th and 31st of this month. I have asked the person in charge of Sakata Seeds Africa to come and train these women on how to develop or farm nurseries, and they can sell or just use the farmland that we got for them from BUK to raise these vegetables. We are going to do vegetables, and before the rains come, then we'll do the crops. And we are going to share the land to all the women that are involved. So this is what I am looking at as economic empowerment. Not that we give you something to use and you go and sell it. So even the women, are they ready? Are they ready to be empowered? Because most of the time, when I was still in service, most of the time, if we give them starter packs, they sell it. They sell it off, spend the money, and then sit down, nothing. So we need to empower women that are ready to be empowered. Once you empower women that are ready to be empowered, the home, you will see good food there. The children will go to school. They will not even be sick. They will not even be sick because they are eating good food. And then the community too is empowered, because this woman will ask this woman, how did you do it? And she will mentor and continue mentoring each other until they are able to be okay in their various homes.
Community.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful story with us. Really appreciate you, Madam Memu. That was a great insight. You know, as women, I loved what you said about it's not enough to create opportunities for women. Those women are ready and willing to run with these opportunities that are made available to them. Okay, you know, it's not enough for you to create policies that are inclusive. It's not enough for us to push for for more structures that allow women and accommodate women to spread their wings. But are these women, are women even ready for this change that is coming, for this change that we're pushing for, right? So okay, thank you so much once again, Dr. Memuna. I'm going to give the room now to Dr. Nisi, who is going to be talking to us, right, on programs such as SWEEAP, which is the Scaling Women Economic Empowerment. You know, I know you're a beneficiary of one of these initiatives. So the focus on removing this program mostly focuses on removing the structural barriers that women face in terms of economic empowerment, and also most especially in affirmative procurement. So I'd like to ask, what specific interventions have proven most impactful in creating both economic opportunity and joy? You know, this can be from trainings you've taken, like the SWEEP initiative or other trainings. So how has this proven to be impactful in creating both economic empowerment and opportunity, and then joy? Over to you, Dr. Nisi.
Yeah, thank you once again for having me. All right, so
Thank
I
you.
like to look at this from going back to structural barriers. You know, structural barriers are systemic in nature. Structural barriers are embedded in our social system, economic system, our political system, our institutes. You know, so you talked about the SWEEP project. The SWEEP project was actually to help the women, take them away from this structural barrier, help them to have a different mindset about themselves. You know, so when we're talking about policies, there's nothing wrong with the policies we have. The challenge we have is the implementation of this policy. For example, the SWIFT project is a beautiful one. Nobody stopped it from happening. Nobody stopped it from happening. And the idea is to get it into the nook and crannies of every state in Nigeria. And I think it's something that, if we look at the visit to the High Commissioner, British High Commissioner, where we met the Director of Procurement representing the President, it was something that everybody is buying into. So you can imagine, so the policy is not bad. We have good policies, but the challenge we have is implementing policies in such a manner that the policies are inclusive. Inclusive in the fact that it includes the woman, considers the woman in everything. Women, when they are excluded, it affects their household. When they're excluded, family will shrink, the children will shrink, community is weakened. The industry also cannot be healthy. So when you look at the joy of the woman, the state of the woman, it affects everything around her. It affects how productive she can become, because inclusivity comes with growth, and it is the right of the woman to be happy. When I started, I said if happiness is a human right, then excluding the woman in economic opportunity is a denial of that right. So when women are removed, when these barriers are removed, the woman, her joy is restored, her dignity is restored, her confidence is restored beyond her income. So you see, the SWEEAP project is to empower the woman, is to make her think and see herself as a human. So her dignity, it restores her dignity. So you can imagine a woman coming to play in the space of men and doing so well in procurement activities. So the feeling, it's intentional. The feeling is in depth. The feeling is something that is also has a ripple effect. She comes and she's excited. She begins to share with her neighbors, and everybody who is a woman just feels that if she can do it, then we can do it. So it creates we have to find a way to create economic opportunities for women, because somehow it relates to how joyful they become and affects their family. Find a way to ensure that women have access to funding. Women-led businesses have grants, microfinances, corporate systems that help anyhow they want to help the woman in this nation. They should help the woman. Financial security reduces fear and tension for the woman. So once the woman doesn't have enough, women like money. Yes, women like money. And above all, women like their own money. Women like to create their own wealth and know that, see, it's my wealth, it's my money. And women know how to manage money. They know how to manage money. I can tell you that 85% of women know how to manage women. Women who can provide, they can provide for their household. Women who can ensure they run their businesses and make profit. When women thrive, they also create networks and support. You talked about, I think the question you asked Dr. Memuna, where you're talking about how women can create like a ripple effect and helping other women. The truth is, mentorship and community, when women come together or when women begin to thrive, it creates that room for mentorship and community. Do Take Action has created a community already through the SWEEAP project. And I can tell you that women on that SWEEAP project some of them came sad and left fulfilled, came sad, left happy. Some of them came blank, not knowing what to do with their businesses. But I can tell you, there's clarity for them. There's clarity for them. And there's also another bit that can affect the woman's happiness, health and well-being. We have to ensure that the health and well-being is well integrated. So from the government level, structurally, they have to find a way to ensure that every woman is in health. Because when a woman is healthy, she does more. When a woman is healthy, she's stable and produces more. So it's very important, if we want the woman to produce, we want her to be happy, we have to find a way to ensure that she's included. The SWEEAP works because it understands that empowerment is economical, and empowerment is social, and empowerment is emotional. So SWEEAP combines skills, funding, support, policy alignment. We're talking and teaching. Most of the teachings were practical, very practical. So today, women are encouraged to be enterprising, more stronger, building networks and integration. Happiness is not a privilege. So sometimes when we talk about happiness, we think it's not a privilege. You said it. It's a right. It's a right and should be the reality of every woman. When economic systems include women, happiness stops being an abstract. It becomes our reality. It becomes visible, affects everything around us, affects our children, affects our husbands, and affects the entire system as a nation, affects everything. So we must ensure happiness is the right every woman should enjoy. It's not a luxury. It breeds economic growth, and women must be included. When women rise, communities rise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, in conclusion, Madam Dr. Nisi, I'd like you to, for the women out there who are listening to you, what's your word of encouragement to a women entrepreneur who is still trying to find her balance, who doesn't know whether or not she's happy doing what she's doing? What's your final word to this woman? What do you encourage her to do to find this happiness? And what would you say she should define her happiness with? All right. Thank you.
The truth is, sometimes we try to look for happiness from others, and we're not
Mm,
getting it. And it keeps us in a state where it's as though the world has forgotten you. Women, find happiness. Find it for yourself, by yourself, with yourself. Anyhow you want to find the happiness, find it. If your happiness comes with you learning and creating a platform where you can begin to help other women to learn, do it. Thank God for the Sweet Project. The Sweet Project is a woman idea to help women like her to succeed. So, and then when you find happiness as a woman, don't keep it to yourself. Ensure you spread happiness, because happiness is contagious. The moment you're happy, it just keeps going. Like I said, it's a ripple, it just keeps going. So, whether we're included or not included, any woman who has found herself on the table, ensure to create a space for the other woman to come to the table, because inclusion brings about clarity, it brings about strategy. When women are included, when women are happy, when women find fulfillment, everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. So I'm encouraging every woman out there. For those of you who have found your feet, ensure that you help those around you who are struggling to find their feet. Because if as women we succeed, we don't succeed for ourselves, we succeed for our children, we succeed for our husbands, we succeed for our brothers, we succeed for the entire community and the entire nation. So that's my encouragement to every woman. Ensure you are
thank you
succeeding
so
and ensure that you're
thank you
happy.
so
Whether happiness is given to you or not, create yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisi. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. So I trust that every woman listening to this live session today is really inspired from what has been discussed so far. I want to say a very big thank you to you and to all the other panelists, Dr. Eju, Dr. Memuna, and Ambassador Miriam, who was on the call earlier on. So, in closing, I'd like this to be your takeaway for wherever you're listening to us. I want you to know that economic empowerment is not just about how much you earn. We've gone ahead of that. So it's not just about how much you earn. It's about the life that your earning gives you. That's the power to design, you know. So you don't just say economic empowerment is just how much you earn, like the speakers have said so far. It's a ripple effect. It's not the economic empowerment shouldn't stay with you. It should transmit to other beneficiaries. Other people should benefit from you being economically empowered. So don't just build income, build independence. As women entrepreneurs, you need to build independence. Don't just pursue opportunities. You need to create choices. And don't just chase success. Protect your well-being in the process. So these are how you can attain happiness in your different endeavors in life. Because true economic empowerment, true happiness is when your financial power gives you not only stability, but it also gives you influence. You can trade in that circle where everyone thought you can't. You can make decisions. You can sit in the decision making table, but also for freedom to live with dignity and purpose. And at the end of the day, you have joy. So, as we celebrate today's International Happiness Day, I want you to go home with all of this, because an empowered woman don't just achieve more, they live better and they lift others. Go further, if you go ahead in your different endeavors in life, choose happiness over everything in every area of your business. I want you to find happiness. So going forward, I want you to build boldly, and I want you to choose happiness. All right. So thank you once again to everyone who joined us today for this discussion, and I'm looking forward to having more of such discussions with you. All right. Thank you once again to our panelists. Thank you for the audience. I want to say a very big thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and see you next time. Happy International Happiness Day. Thank you so much.
I can't hear a thing. Can others hear?